Let's hear it for the radio podcaster personality stylings of Kim Berns.
I think poor Helene has been working so long. I'm not actually from Connecticut, but it doesn't. No, I mean, really, no, everybody's sort of like, we don't give a shit where you're from. Can we wrap this up? Anyway, so hi, I'm Kim, and I love George. George and I go back to when George started in comedy when he was about 80, and we got to chatting, and actually you were 80, right, when you started? Yeah. And I know people come up here and they just make shit up, but actually that was real. But anyway, so with George, we had this chat, because he was a psychologist, and really basically what he said was, what other profession could I get into where I'm hanging around with crazy, unhinged people? And that would be this. Yeah. So there's so many aspects to being comedy, and George knows about it. But one of the things is that he gets to hang out with chicks, and he wasn't sure if he'd have that opportunity. So what ended up happening is that I kind of got this big crush on George, and we had this like secret dating life, and I was bragging to a friend of mine about him, and they're like, how old is he? And I said, I don't know, he's like 84. And they said, is that in dog years? Anyway, no, I said, no, he's really robust, and he's really quite youthful. And the sad thing is that if a younger woman goes out with an older man, they think that you're after his money. It turns out George doesn't have any, but that wasn't the really. But if you flip that around, and I think there's probably a handful of misogynists in the room. Raise your hand. But if you flip it around, and a guy who is younger goes out with an older woman, all of a sudden he's like interesting and has depth. Why is that? How's that work? But anyway, so George and I, we started dating, and it was one of these funny things where once he became famous because he did this documentary, we're like walking down the road, and it was 2nd Avenue, and all of a sudden the paparazzi is chasing us, and I'm saying, George, run. And he's like this, and he said, I am running. So yeah, that was kind of tough on us, and then he would do these weird personality tests on me to see if I could sit in one place and hum the entire score to a Fiddler on the Roof. That was a little insulting, but anyway, the toughest thing was when we went to meet my parents. And my dad was so happy because it was the first boyfriend that had less hair than him. But it got a little awkward when we're talking, and I said to my father, "Hey, Dad," and George said, "What?" So I just thought, maybe I need to rethink this. But anyway, but one thing, and he was talking earlier, George, was about his family jewels. And, he was really brilliant, I have to say, before I end the sad story about the end of our romance, is that he did know how to put the jewels in your box. But anyway, okay, so I'm sorry for embarrassing you, George, but actually, it's all bullshit. Okay, fine, it's all bullshit. I had my own Jewish husband. I didn't really need George. And, and then I've got these 3 boys. I've got these 3 sons who are from 14 to 21, and they go through more Kleenex than a really well-attended funeral. Do you know what I'm saying? You just can't. Costco can't keep up, but and the supply-demand chain thing is just like, oh my God, where's the Kleenex spot? They're an interesting lot. It's interesting to have a lot of boys around who that's pretty much all they talk about, and especially when one of them has you call the pediatrician because he got an STD from a Solo cup that he used as a vagina. So just a tip, if you don't take the sponges out and clean them, there are repercussions. But anyway, yeah, no, boys are interesting. Boys are interesting because really the bottom line is I have nothing in common with these people. But But I do have the husband around to help. And, my thing was I was like, I had heard this old adage and I was really a little nervous about it because I'm like, who's going to teach these boys man stuff? Because I always heard that Jewish husbands died early because they want to. But, anyway, so you said go along with boys. Like, oh, you have STD, solo cup, not a problem, And then one time, one of them comes up and says, hey, Mom, I was in your room going through your dresser. And I'm thinking, okay, first of all, I didn't even know my parents' first name until I was in college. I mean, you didn't do stuff so no privacy. But I go, yeah. And he says, so I found a dildo. And I said, so I think this is a teaching moment, right? So I said, actually, son, that's a vibrator. And he said, well, but does that mean Dad is gay? And I said, no, it means he's lazy. So you have these kids, and pretty much every day you really say, why? What was I thinking? But I still, anybody with a heart understands the horrible things that are happening with the Supreme Taliban running our country. But I did march in Washington the first go around when I thought we had a chance. And this one sign really, really, really hit me. And I was like, oh my God, that is so true. Because the big question about abortion is, when does life begin? And this sign said, and I repeat it every day to myself, life begins when your kids are out of college and your dog dies. Thank you.